If Great, thank you. So if you haven't already, looks like some of you already said hello in the chat window. So just tell us where you're from. I think many of you are from San Diego and at UC San Diego, but in San Diego and at UC San Diego. But I don't want to make assumptions. So go ahead and type in the chat window where you're from geographically, if you're physically in San Diego or maybe a different place. It's always nice to see. This course is great because we do get people from all over the country. All right, Jana, how are you?
I'm good.
All right.
Hi, everybody.
Nice to see you. All right, so we've got Scottsdale, Jana, and David, San Diego. Carlisle's from North Carolina. Nice. Paul, living by SDSU, but employed by UCSD. Good choice. Laura Lynn, of course, is in San Diego. I'm in San Diego. Angela's in San Diego as well. So very nice to see you all. And thank you for joining us today. This is just really an information session so that we can answer all of your questions about our course, the Lean Six Sigma Leader course. Again, my name is Tracy O'Rourke, and I'm the instructor of the course with Elizabeth Swan. So let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about Elizabeth and I. We are co-founders of the Just in Time Cafe, and that is a place where we try to grow our community of problem solvers, Lean, Six Sigma, PDCA, Kata. We don't care. We want a place where you can go and you can enjoy yourself and connect with others in our Lean community. One of the things we do is we have free webinars every month, and we have a free podcast every month, and we feature book authors. We feature people that we think have something very interesting to share with our community, and that community is growing. We also co-wrote a book called The Problem Solvers Toolkit, and we use that in our Lean Six Sigma Greenbelt course that we also teach at UC San Diego. So we also teach the Greenbelt. And I'm also the MC for the Process Palooza. How many of you know what the Process Palooza is? Anybody? Well, of course, Laura Lynn knows because I've seen her there when we physically had them. We did our virtual one last year. Was that the first time we did virtual or the second time?
Second time. Yep.
Second? Oh my gosh. Second time we did it virtually. But what's really nice is we get a lot of people showing up. Like 800, 900 people signed up and registered, which is great. And it's a global community. So that's one of the wonderful things about having Process Palooza virtually too. Let's see, what else can I share? I love my job. I'm a process improvement zealot. I love teaching process improvement. I love talking with students. I love talking with leaders. And I think that's part of what makes it enjoyable is our teachers actually like to teach the courses. Right, Angela? That's always a plus, isn't it?
Always a plus, yes.
And so Elizabeth unfortunately could not join us today. So I'm going to be doing this information session with Angela. Angela, I'm sorry. Angela tends to be an introvert, but she's going to have to, I'm going to call on her a lot during this session. So if anybody has any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat window, or we've got a small group today. So if you just want to shout it out, or if you have a question, you can raise your hand. If you want to stay on video, that's up to you. Or you can raise your electronic hand as well. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and get started? Okay, so we are just going to talk a little bit about, we're not going to talk a lot about Lean Six Sigma. What we find is most people know what Lean Six Sigma is, but just in case you don't, we are going to just briefly talk about that. Maybe a few minutes is all. And then we're going to really talk about what is a Lean Six Sigma, why we need Lean Six Sigma leaders. And we're going to talk about the course overview, what's in the course, what you can expect, how it's organized, how often you meet or want to meet, and then the registration process. So that is our agenda for today. And hopefully you're in the right meeting. Oh, shoot, this is not what I thought I was signing up for. So Lean Six Sigma. So I like to say, first of all, that everything we do is a process. All work is a process. All products, all services are delivered by a process of some kind. Tying our shoes is even a process, or baking a cake, or going to the airport, or getting up in the morning, or ordering your lunch. All of these things are processes. Well, what happens when these processes don't work so well? What if they're not working as best as they could? Or what if there's pain in the process? What do you do? And ultimately, the goal then is to try to make it better, try to make the process better, make it work with others to work on the process instead of in it, because we always say you're working in the process usually, but when you want to improve it, you have to work on the process, which is a different set of skills. And of course, we teach those skills in the Lean Six Sigma Green Belt course. And often, a lot of people say, well, how often do you have to improve the process? Well, daily or weekly or monthly or yearly, it never stops. As a matter of fact, I've been doing this 23 years now, 23 years. And I'm excited to see people on this journey all the time. I run into people on the journey all the time. They're also on the journey. I was just talking to a friend of mine who I met in 2002, and we were doing process improvement. She worked at Callaway Golf, and I was consulting with them. And I just talked to her yesterday, and she's still doing process improvement, and so am I. So it's a lot of fun, bumping into people along the journey. Oops. I heard somebody sneezing or blowing their nose or something. Don't forget to mute unless you have something you want to add to the conversation. Okay, let's see. So when you go through the green belt, these are some of the things that we teach in terms of the combined toolkit. So often leaders have a lot of people that have gone through green belt, and these are some of the tools that Lean and Six Sigma offer. Lean has the tools on the left, Six Sigma has the tools on the right. And ultimately, you're learning a set of tools to try to improve processes and to think differently too. It's not just about tools, it's about thinking differently and thinking and developing a culture as well that can support process improvement. But ultimately, Lean and Six Sigma used to be taught separately, and Lean came from Toyota in the 40s. Six Sigma came from Motorola in the 80s. And now we really combine them because they have common goals. We want to make the customer experience better. We want to eliminate non-value add activities. We want to reduce variation, improve speed, reduce errors. And sometimes that means improving profitability as well. So ultimately, people go through Greenbelt and they learn these skills. And wouldn't it be great if organizations had armies of problem solvers, armies of employees who know how to do this really well? And guess what? Many organizations do have lots of people that have gone through problem solving training, if you will, green belt, yellow belt, black belt. And Lean Six Sigma is very mainstream now. And sometimes we call it different things. We might call it operational excellence or continuous improvement or business process re-engineering, but it's definitely part of the fabric of a healthy organization. What do you guys call it? I'm going to guess that your organization does some sort of process improvement. What do you guys call it internally? Do you call it Lean? Do you call it Six Sigma? You can go ahead and type it in the chat window, or you can just come off mute and tell us what it is. It's up to you. So this is where I'll call on Angela and wait for responses. So Angela, what does UC San Diego call it? Because I don't know if you guys know this. Well, some of you do because you work at UC San Diego, but UC San Diego actually does practice what they teach others. They are employing process improvement at UC San Diego. They have an entire program and they're training thousands of problem solvers. So Angela, what are they calling it at UC San Diego?
We actually do call it Lean Six Sigma. We have a whole office, operational strategic initiatives also, who spreads the word and goes to departments and helps with process improvement initiatives. And so yes. And many have, I think we have over 4,000 now across the university, across the healthcare system that have taken the Lean Six Sigma trainings.
Wow, 4,000. And what's the goal? Do you guys have a goal?
You know what? That's a great question. I'm not sure. Laurelyn, do you have any insight? And I think it's just continue to spread the
good work.
I mean, my personal goal would be that every single employee is Lean Six Sigma trained.
Love it.
I know like Bob Neward would agree, they're like, Pierre would agree. I don't know that all the areas are on board yet, but slowly, one bit at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Good. And so we have a couple comments in the chat window. Let the LSS or Lean Six Sigma quality improvement or process management. David says LSS. Laura Lynn also says LSS or process improvement, as well as Jana. And Cynthia has process optimization. And Aaron says yes to all of it. So yeah, there's different names, and that's okay. It's ultimately some form of continuous improvement, and people call it different things. But we find that it's basically the same approach. It's trying to develop a healthy culture of problem solvers and growing problem solvers. And in order to do that, you really do need coaches to coach problem solvers. So ultimately, Lean Six Sigma has been around for a long time. Even before Toyota, there was something called the scientific method, and Lean follows it, and so does Six Sigma. And so it's all root cause analysis, all of these methods, which is another reason why they've come together for Lean Six Sigma. And this will be my last slide on why we do Lean Six Sigma, and then we're going to move into the leadership course. But ultimately, these are some of the reasons why organizations want to implement Lean Six Sigma at a high level. We want to be better. We want to be more efficient at how we do things. Sometimes our processes are not efficient, especially if we haven't looked at them in a very long time. How many of you feel like your processes are 100% perfect? Does it ever get there? No. As a matter of fact, there's this sort of overarching goal in Lean called the pursuit of perfection. Guess what? You never really get to the destination. It's always the path and the journey of perfection. And it's really just trying to be more and more efficient. How do we do things more efficiently without negatively affecting the customer and the effectiveness of the process? So that's a big one. Reducing costs, right? So sometimes when processes don't work very well, there's costs associated with that. You have products that don't work well. You have processes that don't work well. You have unhappy customers. Sometimes there's risk involved. And so how do we make sure that we're not making things aren't working so badly that we're actually losing money, or people are getting hurt, even safety issues or anything like that? And then there's improving customer experience. How do we make it better for the customer? We want to be efficient, but we don't want to sacrifice efficiency. We don't want to sacrifice the customer experience for being efficient. So that's also a very important part. And then finally, strengthening the organization. This is a big one that we're seeing a lot, is we want the organization to be stronger. What do we mean by that? Mostly it's around making sure we can achieve our strategic goals more effectively, because often we are trying to solve problems, and we do have a goal of some kind, and we have to remove barriers for that. We want to be more agile as an organization with changing climates. We want to have an agile organization, and Lean Six Sigma helps the organization become more agile. And I already said this before. The last point is building armies of problem solvers. And how do we do that? And like Angela said, I mean, you guys already have UC San Diego, as an example, has 4,000 problem solvers already, people that have gone through training, they've gone through, they've done projects, they're continuing to look for projects and improve processes, and they're becoming better and better problem solvers. So guess what? That's all wonderful. It's all amazing, but we have a little problem. And that is, we don't necessarily have coaches for these problem solvers, right? So we have all of these people that are good problem solvers, but who is making them better, and how are they getting better, and how are they continuing to build their problem solving skills? And that is really where leaders come in. Why do we need Lean Six Sigma leaders? So ultimately, we need leaders, because Lean Six Sigma does build better leaders. It helps create ideal conditions for problem solving. And ultimately, continuous improvement is mainstream. And we want to really leverage the people that are doing process improvement, that are trained. And sometimes I see organizations not really leveraging these skills. They're underutilizing this talent, which we know is a waste. And so we want to make sure that we are leveraging. I mean, this is one of the reasons why we need Lean Six Sigma leaders. We want to have armies of employees to be trained, but we want to help them grow. We want to support continuous improvement. We want better problem solvers, and having better problem solvers equals having better organizations. And that involves having better leaders. So this course is really, because a lot of times people say, well, who's this course for? When we say leaders, what do we mean? This course really is for any leader that just wants to become a better champion of continuous improvement. If you have any direct reports and you want to promote process improvement, this course will cover tools and skills and approaches, habits that will help you become a better leader and a better champion of continuous improvement. This course is also for operational excellence leaders. We're finding a lot of operational excellence leaders are taking this course because they want to find better ways to grow coaches internally. And sometimes they decide, you know what, I'm just going to send all my leaders to this course. I'm going to do, or they're going to develop something on their own. But ultimately, OpEx leaders who are in charge of these kinds of programs, we're seeing come through this course as well, because they are looking for ways to have a program to grow leaders, because you need a program to grow leaders if you want to build better problem solvers. I'll pause there and see if anybody has any questions around that. So tell me, what are some of your interests? What are some of the reasons why you have an interest in taking this course? What is it that you're looking to do? I would love to hear in the chat window. And Angela, I'm going to go ahead and pick on you a little bit while we're waiting for some responses. So go ahead and you can either come off mute or you can type in the chat window. What are some of your interests in this? And by the way, I should have probably put these bullets out here. So these are some of them. So Angela, what have you been hearing when you talk to people on the phone? What are you seeing as some of the interests of what people are looking for?
And thank you, Tracy. Actually, I just want to take a moment. I know Jana's not able to see the slides. Can I ask real quick, is everybody able to see the slides, either a thumbs up or?
I can see the slides.
I can see the slide.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see the slide.
Everybody does.
I can,
Okay.
can
Good.
see as well.
Okay, good. All right.
So Tracy, to answer your question,
Yes.
what I've heard from leaders, they love the aspect when we talk about this course, I guess the guidance in order to help select projects that really matter to the business. And so
Mhm.
offering that mentorship piece is what I've heard is really helpful.
Yes, good. Good. That's very great. So there's a couple people that have had some comments as well. So Paul says new strategies, definitely new tools for process improvement. You know, I do find, like I said, I see I run into certain people all along the journey, and they're constantly crafting, if you will, their approach, their skills, and building upon those. So I really like that, Paul. Thank you. Jana, I have a brand new team. I want to create a lean government agency that demonstrates lean principles. Love it. And it can be done, Jana. I have worked in a lot of organizations and a lot of government organizations, and pleasantly surprised at how well it works in government with the right approaches. Good, thank you. David, will you talk about the prerequisites? I absolutely will. And we're going to do that right when we finish some of these pieces right here, but we will definitely talk about the prerequisites. Supports continuous improvement and continue to coach folks in the organization. Thank you, Cynthia. Yes, these are all great. And I think this course is really considering those elements as well. Does anybody have anything that they want to share verbally? Laura Lynn, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, for me, the managing up is always such a big part of all this, right? You know, because even if you have individuals who, you know, are passionate about Lean Six Sigma or process improvement, you know, you really need leadership to, you know, to be supportive, and you need those champions. And so I, you know, in this type of a course, not only for being a better leader myself, but also continuing to manage up to all of those levels all the way up to really kind of spread the fire, you know, from the ground up. You know, that grassroots effort is really something that speaks to me.
Mm-hmm. Really good point, Laura Lynn. And you guys have probably experienced this as well. Sometimes we have leaders that say they're supportive, but then when it comes right down to it, they actually don't want that solution implemented, or they don't like that solution, or they don't let the team move forward. And these are the kinds of things that we have to be aware. And maybe they had some good reasons, but if over time their direct reports start to feel like they don't ever really let us make changes, now there's something fundamentally, the approach isn't what we need. And I think what you say is really important, because we have seen, leaders have a critical role in the success of continuous improvement. And if they don't support continuous improvement quickly, even if people are trained, they're sort of culturally feel like they're not really allowed to use the tools or to apply the methods. And that means it's going to die. And we don't want that to happen. And so leaders really are the crux of success. And it could be supervisory all the way up to executives as well. Thank you for that, Laura Lynn. Any other comments anybody wants to share about why they're looking to do this course?
Carlisle has a question.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. So I guess to piggyback off of what Laura Lynn said, I do think absolutely leadership is important for carving the path and for supporting and being great advocates. But I think what I'm noticing, and I'm wondering if there's going to be some direction related to this, but I think there's a lot of great efforts being done at UCSD to get people to get their belts and such. But what I think is missing is truly an infrastructure that supports all of the folks who may have the right mindset, but it's the connection point of all of these individuals where there may or may not be formal leadership, but it's the infrastructure that it needs to be built to support the sustainability of a true culture, which by itself is a shift in and of itself, but it's the infrastructure piece that I'm most curious about.
Very good. Thank you, Carlisle. That's very helpful. So those are all really good comments. Mercedes also has ones. We have processes that aren't working, and I need a framework, methodology to follow to improve or streamline these processes. Or Laura Lynn says, or they don't understand the processes. Leaders don't understand the processes. I always like to say too that sometimes leaders have good intentions. The hope is we have well-intentioned leaders. Sometimes they just don't necessarily know what to do, right? They don't really know what it means to be a leader that is promoting and championing process improvement. So we tend to talk through that structure of developing what is it that I'm supposed to be doing. And sometimes that comes down from, Mount high, but more often there's just not a lot of rigor or habits being built. And that's something we talk about in this course, about what kinds of things are we doing as a leader daily, weekly, monthly, to support process improvement. Okay, so we're going to cover, first of all, a high-level overview of the course and the prerequisites, because David asked specifically about that. And so ultimately, these are the things that we're hoping that having better leaders will do. And here is, at a high level, the 5 key things we really talk through in this course. So the first part is what we call grasp Lean Six Sigma. And this is speaking to what David mentioned. Is there a prerequisite? There is no prerequisite to join this leadership course, no formal prerequisite. So you don't need a belt necessarily to take this course. However, the more you know about Lean and Six Sigma, the more it can help understand what it is. So it's always nice to have at least a yellow belt level understanding of some of these concepts. So what we've done is in first part of Grasp Lean Six Sigma is we realize that leaders are coming from all different places in terms of knowledge. There's people that are leaders that have black belts. There are people that are leaders that are now told they have to start promoting process improvement, and they don't have any training on process improvement. So part of the of this first section, Grasp Lean Six Sigma, is really about getting an introduction to Lean and Six Sigma, but we make these optional. So we have a lot of information that is available for people that maybe don't know a lot, and it's sort of a yellow belt level of information that we provide. And for those people that already have a good understanding of that, it's optional. They don't have to go through the Introduction to Lean or Introduction to Lean Six Sigma modules, but if they want to, they can. And what we have found is everybody's going through them anyway. They're like, no, I want to see what's in there. I want to refresh my thoughts. So what we're finding is it's optional if you don't have time or you really want to move through section 1 quicker. And so that's really why you don't need a prerequisite for this course. So I hope that answered your question, David. Okay, so that's the first section, is Grasp Lean Six Sigma. Then we move into transform the culture, embrace the leader role, make problems visible, and support problem solvers. And the entire course, it covers these 5 sections. And I'm going to talk about what's in these in a little bit more detail. I would say if I had to pick where we spend a lot of time is under number 5, supporting problem solvers. How do we support problem solvers? And there's different ways that you can do that, but that, even though it's only one step 5, we do spend a lot of time in that section compared to the other sections. So I'm just going to briefly talk through what these are, and then we're going to talk about how the course is organized as well. So first we do Grasp Lean Six Sigma. And again, like I said, we've got all kinds of introductory courses that are in there that you can take. They're modules. These are pre-recorded. And so you have the material for these courses, and you also have a video that you would watch of Elizabeth and I talking to the slides. And you can go through that as much or as little as you want. If you want to watch all the videos and review the material, great. If you just want to look at the material and say, okay, I got that, that's up to you. So it's again, self-directed. That's the beauty of this course, is it does give you a little bit of freedom to meet you where you are on this journey. So that's Grasp Lean Six Sigma. And we talk about the purpose and some of the different methods that are out there, like PDCA, DMAIC, and theory of constraints, those kinds of things. The next section is transform the culture. And we really spend some time talking about this house on the right. It contains 4 components or floors. And these are from the Shingo model for operational excellence, founded by the Shingo Institute. And it's really talking about how taking a more holistic approach to continuous improvement. So we spend some time talking about this model on each of the floors. And we talk about, from a structural standpoint, what organizations can do for each of these. What we're finding is organizations tend to only address one of these floors, when really they should be doing things in all of the floors to help develop and transform the culture. So these ideas and principles from this house came from Shigeo Shingo. He was a leading expert and an industrial engineer in Japan, and he's written lots of books, many of them not even translated into English. But he was a leading expert on manufacturing practices and the Toyota production system. And his teachings are still widely practiced today. And we really like this model because it's simple and it makes sense. It's broad enough rather than prescriptive, so that no matter where you are along the continuous improvement journey or where your organization is, you can assess each floor and make adjustments. So at a high level, the organization is not going to change. You need to address every floor. But what you do every year or every cycle of strategic planning is going to be different. Just like strategic planning, if you will, with an overarching organization strategic plan. So the roof represents the customer focused results. And what are we doing to stay customer focused? Now, I find that there are some organizations that are naturally customer focused. As a matter of fact, I've even had organizations say we're too customer focused, like we're losing money because we are so focused on the customer. And then there's organizations who don't even know who their customer is, believe it or not. and they're not really sure who the customer is of their processes. And I'll give you an example, because if that sounds confusing, what I mean by that is, and Jenna probably knows this, she's in government. Sometimes in government, the customer isn't always the one that pays, and so it's a little confusing. Who's the customer? The people that use this process, or the people that are paying for this process? That's just a simple example of not being clear on who the customer is. And so enterprise alignment is really just, why are we doing this? What is the purpose? What are we communicating? Why we're doing process improvement to the organization? How are we connecting the dots between why we're doing this and how to go about doing it and where we are on this journey? That can be, I guess, when people aren't doing enough there, people are confused. They don't know why they're doing it. They're a little worried, like, are they trying to get rid of me? Those kinds of things. So those are elements sometimes of that we're not necessarily doing what we need to do in that floor. Continuous improvement, that's where basically the floor where most of the activities happen. So projects, training, that falls in that floor. And that's where we find that people are spending most of their time, is getting people trained and doing projects. Yet sometimes they're not doing things in the other floors, and that's where it's short-sighted. So they get results, or they get to do a project, but then people don't continue to do the work, or they're not doing multiple projects. And then the last piece is the foundation, what we call cultural enablers of leadership and respect. So as I said before, you can train people on tools all day, but if the culture doesn't allow people to actually apply the tools and to say, hey, we do have problems. We admit we got process issues and we're working on them. If the culture doesn't allow that to happen, it's going to be hard for them to apply the tools that they've learned. And that happens a lot. How many of you have seen that happen, where you've either worked for an organization that it really wasn't okay to talk about problems because people were afraid, or it was very territorial and very don't look at my space, and people were afraid because they were afraid they were going to get blamed. Does anybody unfortunately have worked in an environment like that before? You can either come off mute and say if you have, or if you want, you could just put it in the chat window.
I've definitely been in an area where problems were 100%. I mean, this isn't exactly what you're getting at, but it's a Lean Six Sigma thing, where problems were only addressed as a people thing. If there was a problem, it was because somebody was doing something wrong or not. There just was, it wasn't even a thought that it could be due to process.
Yeah. Yep. And Laura Lynn, I get it. And I've seen that happen. I'm actually working with someone right now that is what that organization is so used to pointing and saying, no, it's their fault. And they get very frustrated with the people and not realizing that the process design is so complicated and people are just following the process. And if we really want to make change, we have to think of and focus on improving the process and stop blaming the people. So, yep, I get it. Thank you for sharing that, Laura Lynn. Jenna, I love that too. People just need to be trained, right? So you got a 200-step process that has to happen in 10 days, but everybody has to be trained. Rather than, maybe we should remove some of those 200 steps that have to happen in 10 days, as opposed to trying to train people on this horrible process, right? So you're absolutely right. That happens as well. And so transforming the culture is it's hard to do just as an individual, but as a leader, you do make a difference. You do make a difference with your people. That is the number one relationship. How many, and again, I don't want to bring up, horrible memories, but how many of you ended up leaving a boss? You liked the job and you liked the company, but you ended up leaving because of your boss, right? And they say is the number one reason why people leave, is because a direct relationship with their boss is not a healthy relationship, or it's not fulfilling. And so that is, you guys make a difference. Leaders make a huge difference when it comes to transforming the culture. Even though it feels like you're in a system and that the culture is bigger than you, you make a difference. and the things you do, the behaviors you do, the habits you do. And so that's really a nice segue into this next topic, which is embracing the leader role. And this is, we talk about how do you embrace the leader's role. And so again, we try to keep this broad because every organization is doing different things to help leaders be the best leader they can be. But often some leaders don't really know, like I said, they don't really know what they're supposed to do. They need a little more clarity around best practices for a leader in a lean environment. There's something out there called leader standard work. And for those of you that have experience in process improvement, there's something out there called standard work. And we all know that that is the one best way to do a job or a process today. It doesn't mean you can't change it. It just means that this is the agreed upon best way to do it right now. And guess what? Leader standard work is very similar to that. It's basically giving you a set of tools and behaviors to say, this is the best set of leader behavior skills and practices that we have if you want to be a better leader for process improvement. So they call it leader standard work. And that's something we talk about in this course. We talk about best practices. We talk about thawing the frozen middle. If you belong to an organization who wants to do process improvement, you've got the high ups, which is great. If you have, hopefully you have the higher ups saying, yes, we want to do process improvement. We want to do operational excellence. It's actually surprising when they say, no, we don't want to be operationally excellent. You should leave. Right. But so ultimately, most higher level organizations are saying, yes, we want this. And when you're a frontline person, there's very clear steps to follow when you're trying to do DMAIC projects or PDCA. But what's a little gray or a lot gray is, what do you do if you're in the middle? You're not a frontline, you're a leader, you have direct reports, or you're somewhere in the middle, a supervisor, a manager, a director even. What are you supposed to do? And so we really talk about some of those pieces. And so that we call it thawing the frozen middle, because it feels a little immobilizing. And and that's just one more thing you got to worry about as a leader. Leaders have a lot on their plate. And if they're not really clear what they're supposed to be doing, sometimes they just kind of forget about it. Like, I got all this other stuff I got to work on. And so we really are trying to thaw the frozen middle with this course to say, it might be clear from your organization what leaders should be doing. Sometimes it's not. And so that's really what we're looking to do, is to help leaders embrace the leader role and think about their role and what they should be doing or could be doing to be a better leader. And that's ultimately what we're doing. So let's move to the number one thing a leader must do to build a culture of continuous improvement. And this might be surprising, but ultimately we want to create that culture. But ultimately it's about admitting that we have problems and making those problems and processes visible. So, and we already kind of touched on this, but what happens in your organization today when a problem is made visible? How do leaders currently react? You can type that in the chat window if you like. How do leaders currently react when problems arise? Are they supportive? Do they look for who did it? Or do they ask, what did we learn? Do they ask what happened in the process that we need to fix? What's really happening there? And so ultimately making those problems and processes visible and how leaders react to those is really important, because that is driving how people react to the leaders. So leaders may say they want people to share information, but their actions, again, may not align to supporting it. So we talk about some of the techniques like leader standard work, task boards, process performance boards, huddle boards, leader process walks. Now, these sound like they're all tools, but in reality, what they're doing is they're creating a forum to talk about process problems and issues. And so there's some dynamic that's happening. It's not just a tool. You say, okay, I'm implementing this task board. It's really more about the conversations that now are allowed to happen and how you support that as a leader. Okay, Laura Lynn had said, knee-jerk reactions, band-aids and quick fixes that seem like they solve the problem without analyzing. Yes, that happens. right? We tend to jump to solution, or they want to fix it while breaking other things. Thank you, Jana. That happens as well. Good. So this is ultimately a section that we talk about. And then the biggest portion of the training, like I said, is supporting problem solvers. How do we support problem solvers? So these could be one-on-one coaching. We actually do an exercise where you actually practice coaching on an A3. And if you don't know what an A3 is, you have an optional course that an optional module that you can take that talks about, well, what's an A3? And again, if you already know the A3, you don't have to take it, but it's available there. We also talk about challenges for coaching, selecting projects, support for projects. Okay, what do you do when you've got a bunch of belts, green belts and yellow belts reporting to you? How do you leverage their knowledge so that they can continue to use those skills? So ultimately, those are really the 5 areas of the course. And we also review DMAIC, PDCA. We talk about A3s, and none of those things mean anything. That's okay. You're going to learn it in the course as well as part of becoming a Six Sigma leader. So ultimately, those are the 5 areas. And I want to make sure we have time to answer any questions that you might have. But these are the 5 areas of the course. And I want to also mention how the course is organized, because people do have a lot of questions around that. So it's a mixed learning format. It's what we call hybrid. So there are asynchronous, or what we call independent study, on your own, self-paced learning. So there's different formats for that. You might look at material, you might read a blog, you may listen to a podcast interview. There are some assignments that you would have every week that are leadership related. And then you also have exams for each of these 5 areas. So those are, on the left, are a lot of the material that is, again, self-directed. But then we also have every other week, you're meeting with a live instructor and all the people in the course. So there are 6 live instructor sessions. They're 2 hours long. And ultimately, it's not a regurgitation of the material, it's applying the material. So we really focus on, when you're together with us live in the course, you will be applying the material that we've talked about or that you've reviewed already. So we really want to maximize our time together. We use something called Mural. It's a collaboration tool. If you don't know what that is, we show you how to use it. It's really easy and a lot of fun. And so you meet with the instructors and the entire classroom every other week. Every Tuesday is how it's setting up, from 1 to 3 every other Tuesday for 12 weeks. And also you do have a weekly discussion board. So you get to hear from other people that are taking the class. And I'm going to be honest and tell you that they say that's their favorite part, is they get to talk with other people that are trying to do the best they can with leadership. And they hear people's struggles, they hear what's working, they tee up, hey, I have a situation. And so people really like that. And after 12 weeks, you have new friends too, new friends and colleagues. So this is what the course looks like in terms of how it's organized. So again, we have the weeks on the left, we have the topics in the middle, and then these are the dates that we have. So it is a 10-week course, or it's actually 12 weeks when you break it down. And there are 6 2-hour sessions that are live, and the rest of the course is self-directed. So it's a nice balance between doing some of the work and staying with the course, and then having live interaction, which is sometimes hard for people to attend when you live in North Carolina or Tokyo. So we really like it because it's been very successful in terms of getting different people from different organizations all over the country and across the globe. So let's see, if you have any questions, please let us know. Looks like someone asked about the presentation copy. Yes, Angela's going to send you slides. And I'm going to let the last slide, I'm going to have Angela speak to that. Angela, there you are.
Sure. As the slide notes, there are different registration options should you decide to join our January session. And just to note, again, the next session begins January 25th. So if you have any questions about the registration process, you can always reach out to me. I'll be following up with this presentation with the link to the PowerPoint slides and a video of the presentation once prepared, if you would like to send it on or share it to get buy-in to join the course. But again, here it notes the different registration options.
Thank you, Angela. So now we can open it up to any additional questions that you have. If you have no other questions, you get 10 minutes back as a gift from us. But if you have questions, please feel free to stay on. Or if you'd like to listen to the questions, potentially you're welcome to as well. So I want to thank you for joining us today. I hope we answered all of your questions. I hope that maybe you're excited to take the course is my hope. I hope I get to see some of you in January. That would be really fun. And thank you so much. All right, take care. Bye, Cynthia. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you, Laura Lynn.
Yeah,
Bye,
thanks
Carlisle.
for joining.
Thank you. Jana, did you have any questions at all?
One of my questions, so I'm in public health, but another one of my colleagues that was in the innovation studio with me, where we kind of consulted all across all the different departments. I know you know Kelly and Christine and a couple other people. So I would like a couple of us from different organizations within Maricopa County to attend together. I'm wondering if there is what the coaching and project piece might be, and whether or not with green belts and black belts, this is the right kind of class level, for lack of a better word. That didn't sound right, but you know what I mean.
So we definitely have people take it together. If they, and I think it's really nice because then there's sort of this bonding that happens, right, too, where you guys sometimes people decide that they want to have a little bit of a forum outside of the course too, as another way to connect and talk about, how some of these concepts apply. We also do that in the course though, too. We do a lot of, discussion, not just on the discussion board, but discussion during these sessions where you guys, like, for example, one of the weeks we have you guys do an assessment on the organizational culture, and there's discussion around that. And you guys could do that as a group, or you guys can do it, in a breakout group, or, share what other people with the rest of the class. But I think I'm a little confused on the question. Are you saying that the people that you would like to attend